Good night, and my name is Custodio, and I'm going to talk about Kate Chopin. First, I'm going to start with some general about Kate Chopin. Catherine Flaherty, born in February 8, 1850 in St. Louis, Missouri, USA, was an American author of short essays and novels based in Louisiana. She is considered by scholars to have been forerunner of America's 20th century feminist author of Southern of Catholic background and is one of the most frequently read and recognized writers of Louisiana Creole heritage. From 1892 to 1895, Chopin wrote short histories for both children and adults that were published in South National Magazine as France Monthly, Vogue, Century Magazine, and the Youth Companion. Her story arose controversy because of her subjects and her approach. They were condemned as immoral by some critics. Some of the Kate's life. Kate was the third of five children, but her sister died in infancy and her half brother died in the early 20s. They were very Roman Catholic and in the French and Irish traditions. She graduated from Sacred Heart Convent in St. Louis in 1868. At the age of 5, she was sent to Sacred Heart Academy, where she learned how to handle her own money and make her own decisions. Oscar Chopin was his husband, and in 1882 he left Kate with $42,000 in debt. Although Chopin worked to make her late husband's reputation in the rest of succeed. 2 years later, she sold her Louisiana business. So she go with her mother, but then in 2 years, her mother died too. So Chopin struggled with depression after the successive loss of her husband, her business, and her mother. Chopin obstetrician and family friend Dr. Frederick suggests that she start writing. By the early 1890s, Chopin's short history articles and translations were appearing in periodicals including the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper and a very literary magazine. In 1899, her second novel, The Awakening, was published. In 1900, she wrote The Gentleman from New Orleans. That the same year, she was listed in the first edition Marquis Who's Who. However, she never made much money from her writing, getting by on the investment she made locally in Louisiana and some use of the inheritance from her mother's estate. While visiting the St. Louis World's Fair on August 20 in 1904, Chopin suffered a brain hemorrhage. She died 2 days later at the age of 54. She was interred in Clovis Cemetery in St. Louis. In the picture, you can see the half of Chopin when she get married with her husband Oscar. Some of her trip works, her my work was to short its recollection by folk in 1894 and a night in Acadie in 1897. Her important short history included Desiree Baby, A Tale of Miscegnation and in Antebellum, Louisiana, and The Story of an Hour and The Storm. And I'm going to talk about a little more of The Awakening because this novel was her best work now. and the awakening was published in 1899. Some newspaper critics reviewed the novel favorably. However, the critical reception was largely negative. The critics considered the behavior of the novel characters, especially the woman, and Chopin's general treatment of female sexuality, motherhood, and marital infidelity, to be in conflict with prevailing standards of moral conduct and therefore offense. This novel, how I say, is her best known work. Is the story of a woman trapped within the confines of an oppressive society. Out of print for several decades, it was discovered in the 1970s when there was a wave of a new study and appreciation of women's rights. The novel has since been reprinted and is widely available. It has been critically acclaimed for its writing quality and importance as an early feminist work of thought. Critics suggest that such work as The Awakening were scandalous and therefore not socially embraced. And Chopin herself was deeply discouraged by the lack of acceptance, but she continued to write turning the short history. Some more of Kate Chopin's works are Destiny's Baby, Emancipation, The Locket, Athena's Lilacs, The Unexpected, The Kiss, etc. Some honors and awards was the house, her home with the Oscar Chopin. In the late 20th century was designed as a Kate Chopin House, a national historic landmark because of her literary significance. And the house was adapted for use at the Boyum Folk Museum. In 1990, Chopin was honored with a star on the St. Louis Walk of Fame, as you can see the picture. And in 2012, she was commemorated with an iron butt of her head at the right's corner in the Central West neighborhood of St. Louis, across from the street from the left. You can see the pictures here. And this is end my exposition. Thank you for your attention.